Hey, what's up? This is Abdul Shahid Lukman from Coffee Current Events and Politics, also the husband of Jacqueline Lukman. And I just got a few thoughts that I just wanted to say, and I'm going to really call this an honest conversation with real progressives. But let me start off with a story first. There was a story out about in Seattle, that bastion of liberal enclaves out there in a Starbucks where there was a guy who came in and started saying a lot of racist things to administrators at a university in Seattle. And the headline read that these people were being berated and called all kind of offensive names, and everyone else that was in the Starbucks didn't do anything. I'm sure many of you heard that story. And so this is why I said I wanted to have an honest conversation with real progressives. See, Bernie Sanders started off with this revolution, the conversation. He started off this national conversation on where we want this country to go. What do we want in terms of a revolution? And even though it may seem that Bernie may not be getting the nomination, but the movement, the revolution still goes on. And we understand that because it's not all about, the war is long going. So we lose a battle here, we gain a battle, we win a battle there. But in the over end, we're trying to win the war. And the war is to take this country in a more progressive route. But my honest conversation is this, going back to the Starbucks story. See, as black people, we've always been the bridesmaid and never the bride. That was with the Democratic Party. You got some people who's aligning themselves, black folks who are aligning themselves with Trump, and they're going to get disappointed too. And then you have so many black people who are backing Hillary Clinton, and trust me, just like Obama disappointed us, she's going to disappoint us too if she becomes the president. So the reason why what I'm saying to the real progressives is that we can't be a Starbucks revolution. What I mean by a Starbucks revolution, we can't be a revolution of mainly middle-class whites that want the country to go in a different way, but like the Starbucks situation, remain silent and not bring everybody else along. See, I think that if we're going to be real progressives, then we need to really advocate for progressive policies which include everybody. My wife had just done a live stream where she talked about conditions in her old neighborhood. I came up in Camden, New Jersey, and trust me, the story is the same right there, and I won't bore you with all of those details, but the story is the same there and in most urban centers. And I blame the Democratic establishment, I blame the Republicans, I blame the whole structure. We live in two Americas, and the America that I'm accustomed to living in and the America that I'm accustomed to experiencing is that America that needs the most help. See, now I moved down here to Washington, D.C., and just like in every other urban area, you have a lot of gentrification. And this gentrification is being fueled by a lot of so-called white progressives who have a lot of money, who have no problem pushing us out, have no problem hiking up rents and making the market, the real estate market, so valuable that those of us who grew up and live in this neighborhood can't afford to live in the neighborhood anymore. And this is also being helped by black so-called liberals and progressives who only come around when they want our vote, but at the same time, they're non-responsive to our needs. So if we're going to be real progressive, we first of all got to hold ourselves accountable. And I am a real progressive, and I believe in the movement. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to remain true to what our ideas and our goals are. And I don't want to be part of anything that is going to be, as I call, a Starbucks revolution. And I don't think that this is. What I'm saying is that we have to be honest. We have to move forward where everybody has a chance to experience the potential that America can be. We have been, and when I say we, I'm talking about the black community, we have experienced double-digit unemployment for the last 50 years. The National Urban League's report came out, which dealt with the condition of black America. And this report goes back 40 years. And what it stated is that we as a black community as a whole, so that includes you middle-class blacks too, think that you're not a part of anything that happens to the least of us, that we have not gained in any ground. In fact, we lost some ground in a lot of areas. We haven't gained in wealth. We haven't gained in any other prospects, which would even under Obama, we've lost even more ground even under President Obama, the first black president. So what I'm saying is that this country is ripe for a revolution. I believe that we can no longer go with the status quo. We can no longer go with, you guys just wait, we'll get to you. Right now, we all need to come in as a team. I believe in being a team player, but only if the game lets me in. If I can get in the game and I could go up and I could play the game, then I'm a team player. But if all you're gonna do is allow me to sit on the bench, then I don't know if I'm so much of a team player then, you know. So what I'm saying is that we have to really make this a people's movement. We have to really make this a people's movement, and that includes everyone. I mean, like I said before, I grew up in the neighborhood where crack ravaged the places that I grew up in. We had a community, we had businesses. I remember going to a black-owned business store, grocery store. I remember the cleaners being black-owned. I remember having doctors and lawyers live in my neighborhood. You know, it was a good community to come up in. And after the policies of both Democratic and Republican politicians, we have what we have now: mass incarceration, drug addiction, saturation of drugs, and every time something happens to us, and this goes back to why I'm so against the Democratic establishment, when it was revealed that the CIA had helped flood our neighborhoods with crack cocaine, there was no outcry by the government to find out who committed this crime. Can you imagine? We talk about terrorism today, and we talk about the World Trade Center. We talk about, you know, protecting ourselves against terrorists from overseas and protecting our people. But nobody protected us. You know, we weren't responsible for none of this stuff. We weren't responsible for the back down there in Nicaragua somewhere. We were told that the consequences that the people responsible for those policies wouldn't be arrested, but the victims of those policies were suffering massive consequences. There was wrong with that, even though we had nothing to do with it. The fact that so many weapons ended up on the street. Do you know, at 50 years old, I can remember coming up in Camp New Jersey, not knowing anyone had a gun. No one had a gun. And there was one shooting in my neighborhood, and that was a guy who shot someone who cheated with his wife, and that was big news in our neighborhood because nobody had guns. And if they did, no, they didn't use them. So now we live in communities now where, you know, guns are just like going to the store getting penny candy now. Anybody can get a gun in the hood now. So what I'm saying is that this happened under the watch of both Democratic and Republican administrations, both federal and local. The militarization of our police, we can go on and on and on and on. The impoverishing of our school system. When I went to high school, our high school was ranked like, we had a high ranking in our high school when it came to academics, when it came to sports. We were competitive. Now, I mean, my high school has like almost a 50% dropout rate. And this is Camden High School. We have almost a 50% dropout rate. So this happened under the watch of both Democratic and Republican administration, both federal and local. So yeah, we need a revolution. And I'm really glad that Bernie Sanders started this conversation. The fact that we live in the two Americas and we can't sustain this. Let's be honest, we cannot sustain business as usual. I am so disappointed that not enough of us have awakened to the fact that Hillary should not be the nominee. I am so upset that there's not enough of us who haven't awakened, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. And I really believe that if we're going to be real progressive, then we need to advocate for real progressive policies. Real progressive policies that would really, and I really don't like this term, the American dream, because the American dream to me is a myth. Most of us don't achieve that. It's out of reach for most of us. But I do agree that if we are going to have this country, and this is the bar from Martin Luther King, if we are going to live up to the potential that this nation can be, then we're going to really have to have real progressive politics and policies. We don't need a Starbucks revolution. We don't need someone to say that Black Lives Matter, yeah, but not right now. We don't need someone to say that we'll get around to we don't need token liberalist policies, and that's what we've been suffering in the Black community so long, and Hispanic communities and poor white communities. We've been suffering from token liberal policies, where you think that all we care about is whether you cut welfare, or if you care about whether you put enough money into Section 8, or if we care about whether we're going to have the food lunch program. That's all we care about. No, we care about a lot more. We want the same thing that everybody else has. We want we want our young men and our young women to be able to go through college, come out, and go into the careers that they want to go into. Not having our college grads, and I have two, not having our college grads come out having all this debt, and Black college grads having a much higher unemployment rate than white college grads that come out. We don't need to start going through, we need to stop dealing with governments and policies that constantly change the game on us. You tell us to get an education, that's going to open up opportunities. Then when my kids come out with the degree, oh, you didn't go to the right school. So now, your degree is worthless because you didn't go to the right schools. And so you constantly change the game. And then you come back and say, well, all of these tech jobs can't be filled because we don't have qualified people in this country to fill them, to fill these positions. But what you don't say is how you took every science class out of our high schools. Have you defunded our high schools where we don't even have money to have science classes? We don't even have updated computer equipment. My daughter, who is a substitute teacher in one of the high schools, said to me that she went down in the basement of one of the high schools that she was teaching in and found brand new equipment locked up behind cages in the basement, while her students is reading out of textbooks that were there when I was in high school over 30 years ago. That this is what the kids in her high school now are reading out of. And this is an urban school district. But yet the updated stuff is locked down downstairs. And guess what? The city that she's teaching in ran by Democrats. The school board system run by Democrats. So we don't need no more of this token neoliberalist treatment anymore. That makes sure that our kids remain fodder for a capitalistic machinery that don't give a damn about them. So anyway, Real Progressive, we got our job cut out for us. And look, I'll put it this way. There's a lot of us in the Black community that are fed up with business as usual. It may not seem like that. It may seem like the media has done this. They wanted to paint all of us as Hillary's firewall, and we're gonna ride and die with the Democrats until they just crash and burn. But to be honest with you, there is an awakening that's happening in the Black community that the media is not covering, and they're not covering it because it's not in the advantage of the poor plantation system that they got in place. So they're not going to say that there's a lot of discontent in the Black community when it comes to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic establishment, and everything that we've been suffering with. They're not going to tell you that. What they're going to say is that we're good Negroes lined up behind Hillary and we're going to take our marching orders. Well, that's not the case for everybody. So I wanted to have a real conversation to say that if we're going to do this, if we're going to carry on this mantle and make this into a real revolution, then this revolution got to be a people's revolution. And that's all I got to say. So this is my conversation for the Real Progressives. Not as eloquent as my wife is, but this is one of the things that I think that we need. We can't lose focus on the direction that we're going into, because trust me, as Black people, we done seen it all. We done been part of movements, we done been part of all of these things, only to be left behind and told that, be patted on the head. Sometimes we feel like we're that fire extinguisher in the hallway that you just break in case of emergency. Well, like I said, I'm a team player. A lot of us are team players, but we got to be allowed to be in the game, So what I'm saying, Real Progressive, is that we have to have a people's movement. No Starbucks revolution. That's all I got. I'm out. Peace.